Hello everyone, this is Ghost Gamer here to bring you another top guide. Today we're going to focus on the general himself, Swain, in the top lane. Swain is a great pickup if you want someone who has high AP damage, is amazing in team fights, has built-in sustain, synergizes with many meta champions, is rarely banned, and is a safe first pick. Even with all those soul-sucking synergies, Swain does have some drawback. He's immobile, weak against all-in champions early, can pull an enemy into your team by accident, can't split push well, is countered by grievous wounds, and, the worst thing of all, he doesn't have that many skins. The best time to pick Swain is when you have an AD-centric team, or when the enemy team does not have so much burst damage that you die on walking out of a bush. In these games, Swain fulfills the role of a frontliner, both capable of dishing out and taking damage, as well as CCing enemy carries. Swain's passive is Ravenous Flock. Swain's ravens collect soul fragments that heal him, restores mana, and grant him permanent health. Swain can right-click an immobilized enemy champion to pull them closer to him, dealing damage and ripping out a soul fragment. This ability is what allows Swain to become so tanky at the end of the game, as it is not uncommon for Swain to pick up to 10 fragments per team fight, usually netting around 60 by the end of the game, or 300 permanent maximum health. Swain's Q is Death's Hand. Swain unleashes several bolts of Eldritch power that pierce through enemies' hit and stop on impact with enemy champions. Enemies hit take more damage for each bolt they are struck by. This is Swain's bread and butter ability and his main trading tool in lane. However, it does have a decently high mana cost, so be careful spamming it early into the laning phase. Swain's W is Vision of Empire. Swain opens a demon eye that deals damage and slows enemies. Champions hit are revealed and also grant Swain a soul fragment. This is a very useful ability for a number of things, like scouting, checking out the enemies, stealing blue buff, but I would not recommend using it for wave clear, as it deals reduced damage to minions. Additionally, it takes quite a while to hit, and is very easy to dodge, so it is most often used in combination with some other form of CC, which brings us into your E. Swain's E is Never Move. Swain launches a wave of demonic power forward. It then returns to Swain and roots enemies it hits. Earlier I said that Q is Swain's main trading tool. This is only partially true. Due to the efficiency of the passive plus E, E is very useful in lane for trading, as it CCs the enemy, helps guarantee a W and Q connection, and also helps guarantee 2 passive procs, so that it can help recover the high mana cost of the trade. Being able to regularly hit E in lane will be the mark of a proficient Swain, though be careful about spamming it because it does open yourself up to being engaged upon. Swain's R is Demonic Ascension. Swain transforms into a demon and drains health from nearby enemy champions, minions, and neutral monsters. Swain can cast Demon Flare to deal damage equal to the amount of health he drained, ending his transformation to decimate nearby enemy champions with a Nova of Soulfire. Thanks to Riot's recent rework of Swain, well, semi-rework, Swain's R is no longer gated by the amount of Soulfire fragments he collects. This means R is an even more important ability, as it is more reliable than before. Swain's R is very important as it helps him guarantee damage in teamfights, as well as help heal him up. In addition, while he is in his R, he gains max health, equal to double the amount of soul fragments collected. With all these things combined, his R is a brutal team-fighting ability, and can turn the tides of any battle. The standard ability order for Swain is first you level E to help with your trading, then W because your E can guarantee W, then Q. However, you max Q first, then E, then W. There are a number of different viable keystones for the Swain in the top lane, depending on what role you wish to fulfill and what you want to do. First of all, there's Electrocute if you want to be able to win trades. It is very easy for you to proc, because if you hit an E, then you also get your E and your passive, and you basically get a guarantee to W. So in one of your standard trading patterns, you can proc it. Another very good keystone for him is Phase Rush. This is very useful in matchups in which you have to run away and they have hard engage on you. And in addition, there's also Grasp of the Undying, which is a useful tool because with your standard combo you can get up to 12 max health every trade, and in addition you can bully out laners with your auto attacks. Personally, I am biased towards Grasp of the Undying, but other people have different opinions. I like Grasp because I usually prefer a more tanky build, and with Grasp of the Undying you can often get up to 200 max health at the end of the game through proccing Grasp of the Undying over 66 times. Additionally, the sustain it gives you in early lane and the bullying power you have versus melee matchups can't be ignored. There's some secondary runes you might want to consider if you're playing Swain as well. If you're in the Domination tree, consider Cheap Shot and Ravenous Hunter. Ravenous Hunter because it synergizes well with your kit. As you are an AoE mage, you often deal the most damage in the game, and it goes well along with your other healing. Cheap Shot is also very good on Swain because it procs based off damage or movement impairment, and so if you hit your E on someone and then you pull them with your passive, that actually procs Cheap Shot, so it is very easy for you to proc, and it does a decent amount of damage. If you are in the Sork tree, consider Transcendence and Gathering Storm, as those help buff things that Swain is already really good at, which is the late game, and so it can help turn you into an absolute monster. If you're in the Resolve tree, you might want to consider Conditioning and Overgrowth, and that might seem contrary because Revitalize would be really good, but Overgrowth and Conditioning help you against your main weakness, which is burst damage. Additionally, if you are in the Inspiration tree, consider Magical Footwear and Cosmic Insight, because CDR is always very good on Swain, and also the movement seed from Magical Footwear cannot be underestimated. And finally, for stat charts, I would pick up the CDR rune, because CDR, once again, is very good on Swain. Then I would pick up the Flexible rune, for that adaptive force. And lastly, I would pick up the Armor or MR, depending on your lane opponent. And while most mages prefer to go Health, because Swain gets a bunch of bonus health, the resistances are actually more efficient. Due to Swain's nature as a raid boss and his capability of both taking and dealing damage, he has a number of viable builds in the top lane. Most people, when they're playing Swain, they pick up a Doran's Ring as their starting item, as well as 2 pots, and then they first item Roa, quickly followed by a Zanya's Hourglass and Shork Shoes. From there, people can have a number of different items they build into depending on the circumstances, like Liandre's Torment, Morinelli Com, Rylai's Crystal Scepter, or even a Death Cap. The core build is usually considered Roa Zanyas because when Swain Zanyas, his ult is still going on. This enables him to be very tanky during team fights, and also helps him frontline because he can run at the enemy team, ult, Zanyas when they engage on him, and then enemies either have to make the choice of sitting in his ult and tanking damage, or backing out of the ult and enabling your team to follow up and get off free damage. This build is usually core because it does a good job at both making you tanky and also dealing a lot of damage. You get armor and health as well as 2 AP items, so it is quite effective. Despite the effectiveness of this build, I have another build I prefer to do, which is a Doran's Ring plus a Doran's Ring, followed by a Glacial Augment, followed by Liandry's, and then a Frozen Heart. Not too many people know this, but Frozen Heart actually procs the Liandry's extra burn damage, and so even though it may look like you're doing a lot less damage, to tanks or other regular champions, you still do a decent amount of damage. Additionally, this build makes you a lot more tanky versus armor targets, and it also helps enable you to have a safer lane, because Glacial Augment gives you some very early armor, and the health you get from 2 Doran's Rings gives you a significant survivability early on into the lane. Additionally, most matchups in the top lane are into beefier champions. As such, Liandry's Burn will be extra effective there. Oh, I also should have mentioned that in this build you're running Gathering Storm and Transcendence. So once you finish your Liandry's and Frozen Heart, you follow it up with more health and CDR items, like Spirit Visage, or even Zanya's Hourglass, or Banshee's Veil, or other such items. The end course of this build is that by late game you are both very, very tanky and still able to deal a significant amount of damage, both through Transcendence and Gathering Storm, as well as the Frozen Heart plus Leandri's synergy. I personally have seen great success with this build, and have 54 games of Swain played with a 74% win rate. Early game, Swain's main goal is to survive. But while he is doing this, it is still ideal to get passive stacks with your E and W, as well as if you have Grasp, it's good to proc it. When you transition into mid-game, this is when the power of Swain really starts to show, as you are a team fight monster. As such, you're really going to want to group up with your team and try to help force objectives. You should be able to start helping carry your team at this stage. Once you get into late game, this is really the make or break point of Swain. Swain really shines in the late game team fights, as he's able to help soak damage from all 5 enemy champions at once, as well as deal a significant amount of damage. Additionally, I should mention, the ideal sort of team fight for you is an extended, sustained fight, as your ult lasts for 12 seconds, which is longer than most team fights nowadays. Additionally, in lane, your ideal matchups are melee champions that don't have any gap closers, like Nasus, Garen, sometimes even Darius, or other people like that. The people that you really don't want to go into is people like Renekton, Riven, Fiora. People who have gap close can easily stun up on you, because if you miss your E when they are on you, you can very easily be killed. Additionally, in team fights, you generally want to make the decision about whether you need to peel for your teammates or whether you want to help pressure off the enemy AD carries or enemy carries in general. You need to make the decision once the team fight starts on whether you should sit on your AD carry, because if the enemy team has multiple divers, as well as if your carries are quite fed, then it can be beneficial just to sit on your ult and then sit on top of your carries, as they'll have to go through your meaty body as well as your ult in order to kill them. Or if the enemy carries are really fed, then you might want to activate your ult, try to run through the enemy's front line, and then fish for the enemy carries with your E and W. If you want to play a champion who can be a lane bully and then transitions very well into being a team fight monster, then Swain very well could be the champion for you. If you guys have any champions you request for my top guide next week, just put them down in the comments below. And remember to like, comment, and smash that subscribe button.